I do want to bring to your attention a point in the testimony that got a lot of attention on social media when they spoke about the trips that they went on, money changing hands. And in his ruling, he says the district attorney's testimony that the evidence demonstrated that the financial gain flowing from a relationship with Wade was not a motivating factor. And that was something defense attorneys, they really honed on, saying that she really just hired him because she financially benefited from the relationship, from him taking on this job. And he says, based on that evidence, I don't think that's the case.
How many times did you hear us say the phrase financially benefit, improperly financially benefit from this desk and elsewhere? It was a key issue in all of the arguments before the judge. There's not a ton of case law on this, especially with facts like this that we've seen here. There's some on disqualification issues, but this is a bit of a unique situation. The few really on-point cases, the precedent that is out there, that's why we heard so much about the conflict and about the financial questions. The defense team was trying to argue effectively that there was a sort of circular pattern of impropriety, as they put it, that they were dating, that Fani Willis, District Attorney Fani Willis, awarded this contract that ultimately helped Nathan Wade earn hundreds of thousands of dollars, him and his firm, and that then Nathan Wade spent some of that money on vacations for the two of them as a couple, and that circular pattern was somehow deliberate and was somehow, and this is the important part, incentivizing the prosecutors to continue their case, basically removing their ability to impartially decide what might happen. And what, maybe they see some evidence and they say, you know what, we actually need to remove a defendant or drop a charge. The argument was that they had this personal interest that would prevent them from making that decision. But Judge Scott MaCafee says, I'm not buying it. He says that did not happen.
To read from it, quote, he says the judge found there was, quote, no actual conflict brought about by the relationship, quote, without sufficient evidence that the DA acquired a personal stake in the prosecution or that her financial arrangements had any impact on the case. The defendant's claim of an actual conflict must be denied. But this split decision really points to maybe the appearance of conflict. But as you're talking about this point, I remember that famous quote that DA Willis said, that the only man to foot her bills is her daddy.
Exactly. And we saw her father come on to the stand and testify, some of the practices that she testified to, saying that she kept cash on hand. It was something that her father taught her. And he came on stand to speak to that, saying that, in the black community, they don't trust the bank. And that's a practice that he passed on to her to really kind of make the case as to why she always had cash on hand and never really used her credit card. There was no financial records tied to the money exchanging hands.
And that was corroborated by a business owner in California, one of the trips that she took.
Yeah, and we do have a soundbite from part of her testimony on that part.
Absolutely nothing to do with this. It's interesting that we're here about this money. Mr. Wade is used to women that, as he told me one time, the only thing a woman can do for him is make him a sandwich. We would have brutal arguments about the fact that I am your equal. I don't need anything from a man. A man is not a plan. A man is a companion. And so there was tension always in our relationship, which is why I would give him his money back. I don't need anybody to foot my bills. The only man who's ever foot my bills completely is my daddy.
That underscores what we're talking about here, and it seems like from Judge Scott MaCafee's order, he put a lot of credence in that. And here's a line, we're talking about the delay, the argument that there is a personal interest here and that the district attorney and special prosecutor Nathan Wade were somehow incentivized to drag this thing out. Judge Scott MaCafee right here says he's not buying that at all. He says, and I'm quoting here, the defendants argue that the financial arrangement created an incentive to prolong the case, but in fact there is no indication that the district attorney is interested in delaying anything. He's saying the DA's office wants to get this thing to trial. The idea that they're trying to drag this thing out, in Judge MaCafee's view, that doesn't carry water.
They've had their head down working on this for a very long time. In fact, really from day one of her taking office, it was really on her plate and it's been full steam ahead ever since.